In this episode of 25 for 25, we'll explore Everyday Things for Babies, the first picture book. It is one of what Midwestern photographer Alec Soth has described as oddballs in the universe of children's literature, namely a photographically illustrated picture book. I think you'll be surprised to find out who had a hand in creating this particular oddball, and how the author, nearly 50 years after the creation of the book, came to say, "You are put here to do something." I hope you enjoy.
The first picture book, Everyday Things for Babies, was published in 1930. It's a wordless picture book illustrated with black and white photographs of things that a toddler might encounter in their daily life. Pictured is breakfast, the toddler's favorite toys, what they wore, what they did, where they slept, where they ate, and even who they knew. The book was the brainchild of Mary Steichen Martin, daughter of the American photographer Edward Steichen. Mary, who had 2 young children at the time, wanted a book that would interest them in pictures. She wrote in the introduction, "When my 2 children reached the stage of interest in pictures, search found practically none which could be considered either satisfying to them or in line with modern educational theory. Not only are most pictures inadequate, but also too often they are colored by the artist's viewpoint and personality, thus presenting a falsified image of the object." Mary proposed the idea of creating a picture book to her photographer father. Edward Steichen had been a co-founder with Alfred Stieglitz of the Photo Secession, a group which in the first 2 decades of the 20th century helped to define photography as an art form, not merely a means of capturing reality. However, by 1930, Steichen's work had taken a decidedly commercial turn. At the time, he was serving as chief photographer for Condé Nast, making photographic portraits for Vogue and Vanity Fair. Steichen liked his daughter's idea and agreed to help. He wrote of the photographs for the project, "Each object has been presented as objectively as possible, so that no effects should confuse the child." In Steichen's autobiography, A Life in Photography, he explained the effect this objectivity could have on a child. After the book was published, a letter came from a mother telling us that, when her child came to this picture, he stopped, made the gesture of taking the brush out of the glass, and then simulated the movement of brushing his teeth. He ended the performance by spitting into the wash basin in the picture. Of this, quote, new venture in the field of books for babies, Harriet M. Johnson, director of the Nursery School of the Bureau of Educational Experiments of New York, who wrote the introduction to the book, described the approach as a, quote, signpost to a bit of country which is just beginning to be explored, a sign that will be legible only to those who have really seen children and have observed that a child's early fancy roams among the intimate, homely, and familiar things. 4 years after the creation of the book, at the age of 30, Mary Steichen found herself divorced and grieving the death from pneumonia of her eldest child. It was in this period of transition that she decided to enter medical school. She already held a degree in chemistry from Vassar College. She received her MD in 1939 and a few years later married Dr. Frank A. Calderon. Dr. Mary Steichen Calderon worked for over a decade in public health, and in 1953, she was named Medical Director for Planned Parenthood Federation of America. During her tenure at Planned Parenthood, she became concerned about the lack of accurate information about sexuality available for both young people and adults. So, at the age of 60, determined to live in a world in which sexuality was viewed as a natural and healthy part of life, Dr. Calderon co-founded SIECUS, the Sex Information and Education Council of the United States, whose mission was to establish man's sexuality as a health entity and to dignify it by openness of approach, study, and scientific research. In a 1979 lecture at Harvard, Mary Steichen Calderon was asked to describe how she got here, from creator of picture books for children to sex education expert. And her answer was that her father had passed on to her, quote, the feeling that you are put here to do something and that you want to do something.